Magic the Gathering.
Magic, 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 I'm so magic.
Gathering magic.
Spend a lot of money on cards.
Playing cool cards with my friends.
Play it all. So magic.
We're all winners in the end.
Do you need more water before we start?
No, I think I'm okay.
Think you're good to go?
Yeah, the whistle is wet.
Okay. All right.
You're
Well, you can
fine
have
to
some
go.
sips of mine. Just
Yeah,
dude,
we'll
give me one of these. Just shoot me like one of these. A little signal, hand signal.
Yeah, we'll share.
And we'll share some water. I don't really. We can even do the clarity test. I'm not backwashing.
Okay, but I do.
Okay. Well, I'm like okay with that.
If that's what you're into.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not opposed.
Water filtration is definitely like one of the. I have a very addictive personality, and I go down rabbit holes pretty easily. And water filtration, I had to stop.
Wait, so you had a time in your life where you were like going down the rabbit hole with water filtration?
Yeah, and I still am kind of in that hole a little bit. I sent it to you. I was listening to the Huberman podcast about it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I started looking up the process of actually getting clean water is like the Native Americans that lived before us drank before industrialization and stuff. It is at a minimum $10,000 to do to get the filtration on your water in for your home and stuff.
Wow.
And you can get over the counter ones that sit on your counter, but then they're those are $500. And it's dude, if I'm spending $500, I might as well go all the way.
I know. I'm just rocking the Brita filter. The little pitcher. It works. It's job done.
Only problem with the Brita though is that it's all plastic. So it's okay, I got all that.
The microplastics seeping into your system.
Dude, at this point, we're all basically plastic, though. A couple decades of microplastics later.
Yeah, it's all right.
Also, I was reading a weird article about how they found another. It was a Smithsonian article where they found another unopened tomb I think it was it wasn't a pharaoh, but it was a rich Egyptian guy, and they found microplastics all over the floor of this sealed tomb. And so that's got people thinking yo, did the Egyptians, did they make plastic, or how, because this is sealed. There's no way anyone's been in here for a couple thousand years.
Yeah, it's a little spooky, a little concerning to think about. That might be an unopened, or what should have been an unopened tomb that was holding in some sort of curse upon our water.
Oh yeah, dude, if you're an Egyptologist, you got hella curses in your body. You are super cursed.
Although I suppose at that point you're not even concerned about microplastics in your water anymore, because I'm cursed already.
Yeah, you need to get good with God if you're going to become an Egyptologist, because you will be cursed.
Yeah, it's just part of the gig, something you need to mentally prepare yourself for before taking on that task a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
But
also too, all the people that were in the Exorcist movie, those people all died in horrific ways. So if you work on anything in that vein, you're going to get cursed.
Yeah, let's stick to our day jobs and magic, I guess. It's the moral of the story here.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll stick to our Brita filters and working from home, I guess.
Yeah, we're doing our best. We're just not gonna jump into that.
Anyways, welcome to Wild Dogs Podcast, a show inspired mostly by our love for the game known as Magic the Gathering. Again, thanks for your support on the first couple episodes. The first official episode 1, that was really fun, talking about our, favorite, least popular commander decks. Yeah, that was a really fun one to record.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Definitely makes me want to go and do another deep dive and find some other lesser known commanders that we could maybe build on the show or something.
Yeah, stop making Atraxa.
Yeah.
And go into the dumpster and try to find someone else.
Mm-hmm. Instead of the 1% of all decks, find the 0.01% of all decks.
Exactly. Yeah, become a 1%er.
Yeah, a 0.01%er.
You won't be able to do that in real life with money, so you can do that in Magic the Gathering, though.
Exactly. Yeah, let's maybe talk some personal updates on the boys. Luke, you got a note here that you discovered Gruul. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I discovered Gruul. I've been known as a monocolor Andy. You know, I'm mono green has been my staple, and I discovered Gruul. I discovered that red, without waxing poetically for too long. Red and green complete each other. You know, they like any good marriage, they perfectly fall in the cracks of the other. So, like, what's the problem with green is that it's slow. What's the problem with red is that it's not very stable. And so together, when they combine, they create, red gives green speed and green gives red stability. So there's
I like it.
It's I'm going down this rabbit hole of Gruul, and it's like blowing my mind. I'm like, wow, this is all the problems I have with green are now fixed by just splashing red in there. So that's been really fun.
I completely agree. I've got one Gruul deck. It's my Karlach raised by giants. So it's my kind of pseudo Voltron with Karlach.
It's so much fun.
And then with raised by giants, buffing her up, giving her multiple combats and like some evasiveness to like try to one shot people basically. But it's goofy. It's not overly powerful. I built it with like just my bulk cards.
Right.
So, it's a 7, as some people say.
It's a what?
It's about a 7. It's speaking of your second point, the concept of MTG memes. Calling your deck about a 7, like power level 7, is like a meme in the community.
Oh.
So it's like my commander deck's about a 7, but then in real life it's either extremely powerful.
Oh, okay. All right. Well.
So that's my Gruul deck, my Karlach deck it's about a 7 because there's some powerful cards in there, but it's not optimally synergized by any means. But yeah, Gruul's very fun to play. You're the mono green king. I think Gruul is honestly as close as I am gonna get to mono green. Yeah. Because like you said, they synergize so well that red, in my opinion, kind of fills in the gaps in a fun way for green. Yeah, okay. I think some people might argue that Simic, so blue-green, is maybe even more optimal because you get the card draw and removal. I think red, you mostly get a combination of aggro and removal, or kind of its strengths. There's some card draw, card advantage effects in red that I think you're also looking for in green. So
also there's removal too now. Like I don't have removal in green really. I mean,
you've got Beast Within.
I got Beast Within.
That's it.
Yep. That's all we got.
But yeah, so it opens you up to some more fun spells like Chaos Warp, Guff Rewrites History, my current favorite, red removal spell. You also get some board wipes like your classic Blasphemous Act. Yeah. So it fills in a lot of holes that you don't really have access to with mono green. So I think if you're gonna play green, adding a little bit of red into the mix just goes such a long way.
Oh yeah. So I've had a lot of fun researching this. I'm about to convert one of my mono green decks into a Gruul deck. So that's a process, but I've just because there's I feel like I know everything about green. Not everything, but I know quite a bit about green, and so now I'm trying to get to that level with red, and it's been really fun. Just kind of researching red and seeing what that's all about. But yeah, how was Vintage Cube the other day?
It was awesome, dude. It was super cool. Like,
really?
We're definitely gonna crack that thing out again. Okay. Our good friend Taylor, who we've mentioned before as the Legacy dude, he also has an incredible Vintage Cube. It's a powered Vintage Cube, so it's got Power 9 in the mix, which is super exciting. I think it might have even been my last pack. We did it face up, kind of, I think it's Winston style drafting, just because we had, I've done some like play test drafts. We actually drafted this cube before, but I don't have a ton of experience doing Vintage Cube. And then, we had a couple of our other buddies who haven't done Vintage Cube either. So we did a face up Winston draft. and which was really nice because Taylor was able to like point to certain things as people started to like build their decks, and their decks started to like actually come together. He'd kind of be like, well, actually, you probably don't want to take that card. There's something else on board that would really, behoove you to actually pick up, and you'll actually be able to play. So I basically drafted a white weenie deck.
Excuse me?
So it's one of the archetypes is like which is common in a lot of formats, but kind of low to the ground, mono white aggro with a lot of removal if possible, which Taylor eventually started to hate drafting my deck because he was like, oh wait, he's got his deck built. I can't keep giving him like free removal. Like, so whenever it hit Taylor's turn by like the end of it, he was like, yeah, my deck's built. I'm just going to draft the cards that Leland wants to draft. So I was like,
wow.
Thanks, Taylor. But I actually got some really, really fun stuff because I got Black Lotus.
Really?
In pack 3.
The Black Lotus.
Black Lotus. And I also drafted Luris. So Luris allows you during each of your turns. So he's for 1 and a hybrid Orzhov. So white-black. So 1 white or black. You get a 3/2 legendary creature Cat Nightmare with lifelink. But also, and kind of the key thing of Luris, which makes him like broken, he's like banned in a ton of formats.
Okay.
Like he's banned in Legacy. During each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard.
Oh, that's broken.
So, for me, turn 1, plains, whatever, land for turn, Lotus, crack the Lotus for 3 white mana, cast Luris. Luris allows me, during that same turn, to cast permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from my graveyard. Black Lotus is a 0 mana artifact. So I just get a free Lotus again. So every single turn, if Luris is on board, I get a free Black Lotus.
That's messed up.
It is so messed up. And there were a couple other cards that allowed me to generate infinite mana. Like I was able to, I forget the exact card, but basically continue to return the Lotus from the graveyard to the battlefield and net 1 mana. So it was like for 1 and a white, it was a white card because I was playing a white deck. That for 1 and a white, return target artifact with converted mana cost 3 or less to the battlefield or something like that.
Okay.
And then I'd bring back Lotus, crack it for 3 white, and repeat that. So I get basically.
Dude, that's wild. And you had multiple of them, I'm assuming. Do you have a set?
No. So okay. Cube it's singleton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is what makes it really interesting because everyone's deck is basically gonna end up being singleton by the end of it. So there's one of every card.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it differs from, like a sealed draft format where you have the chance at like opening more than one of a certain type of card. It's super fun, dude. You're definitely gonna have to get in on it next time because, yeah, it was a blast. So
yeah, I will definitely join you guys next time.
Yeah, so that's kind of the updates on us. In other news, in Magic news, straight from the source of Wizards of the Coast and the old Hasbro.
Yeah.
We got MagicCon Chicago.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready. In fact, right here in front of us, I've got my premium Saturday pass.
Let's go.
For MagicCon Chicago. So, yeah, what are you looking forward to at MagicCon Chicago?
I would say the things I'm the most excited for, I mean, this goes without saying, but, the Artist Alley is always the best part of any convention. Mm-hmm. By the way, is this your first convention?
Yeah, it's my first Magic convention. I went to Anime Milwaukee.
Jesus, okay.
A couple years ago because my wife, through her work, got free tickets. And we were like, well, we can't just not go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And... I'm not like the biggest anime fan, but like I like Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli films. I like Pokemon. Okay. There's like a Pokemon anime, so like I'm like well versed enough, and there are animes that I like. Like
you're down with the culture.
Yeah, I'm down with the culture. Like Toriko is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Okay.
My buddy and I were watching Jujutsu Kaisen, which is like a new anime that's out. It's pretty sweet. One Punch Man. I like that show a lot. It's a pretty sweet one. It's like about this superhero guy who literally, for whatever reason, he just decided to get like as strong as possible.
Okay.
And like he worked out so hard and so like rigorously that he like lost all his hair. Here, let me show you a picture of One Punch Man, Luke, just so like you can like
Just
get a vibe.
Yeah, by the way, for the listeners, miss me with that weeb shit. I don't do anime stuff. I don't like anime. Not for me.
Look at this guy.
This just looks sus. I don't know.
Dude, it is such a good show cuz he's so powerful, but he just looks like this. Saitama. He just looks like this. Like this is the protagonist who's like one of the strongest heroes in the world, and he can just literally one punch enemies.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. It was actually really fun. Anime Milwaukee. Yeah, it's a whole interesting culture, but I like the vibe of like a convention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a lot of people really passionate about a certain thing. Tons of like vendors, different panels. So I'm like really excited to do MagicCon because it's something I like absolutely love. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Have you done any conventions otherwise?
Yeah, I've never done MagicCon, but I have done like Comic Cons, and I have also, I mean, it's not a full convention, but I've gone to a lot of fighting game tournaments, which are
Okay.
so there's like a tournament in the backdrop, but then also there's like an artist alley, and there's like all the trappings of a normal convention are there too. So I've been to those. Also, it's funny, I've only been to conventions in Chicago. So like C2E2 is like the Comic Con that they have.
Okay.
And then I've also like CEO is like, and Frosty Faustings are like the two fighting game tournaments that are like considered major events in fighting games. So, but no, I mean, I'm excited though for, Artist Alley the most. There's, like Mark Poole is going to be there, which is kind of crazy. He's like one of the OG artists for, all of Magic. So he'll be there. And then there's also just a couple other really, fun people that are going to be there too.
Yeah, we've got notes of who we would like to see. Mark Poole, obviously.
Yeah, that line's going to be crazy though. So
yeah.
Good luck.
I've actually got my signing list up here.
Oh, you made a list? Okay.
Oh yeah,
I should do that. I should do that.
It's at 200 cards right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 200 cards. There's no way I'm getting 200 cards signed.
No way.
But yeah, Mark Poole, obviously, Taylor should get his Ancestral Recall.
Yeah, he needs
signed.
to.
that'd be hilarious. But yeah,
also, the value of that card would go down.
Well, it's yeah. He probably wouldn't get it signed, but I mean, it's already like water damaged, which is why he got such a good deal on it.
Yeah, but like the good deal he got on it was still like $2,000. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I got to steal. I paid $2,000 for a single card.
Yeah. So I'm not getting an Ancestral Recall signed by Mark Poole, but I would like, there are a handful of cards like Howling Mine, his classic Counterspell art. I've got one of those too, and just some other, other kind of basic stuff. Like an OG Wild Growth would be really cool. I've got Torsten von Ursus, who is a legend from Legends. For 6 mana, you get a 5/5 vanilla creature.
That sounds like a great deal.
Yeah. So he's in I've got a vanilla creatures Selesnya deck.
Interesting. Vanilla creatures, interesting.
Yeah.
That you like those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've probably seen the deck once or twice.
Oh yeah, I've played against it.
Yeah. So
it's really fun.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you enjoy vanilla creatures.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we might circle back to that later.
Oh, interesting. A
little foreshadowing.
A little foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
You've also got Stephen Belladin, another classic artist. You've got it's an artifact creature guy. What artifact creatures by Stephen Belladin are there?
Like he did what's it called? Like the Ethereum. There's a very famous artifact creature. I'm blanking on the name. It's like Ethereum Sculptor, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Where I think it's Ethereum Sculptor, but it just makes all your artifacts one less. If you run any sort of artifact, this is a must include because it just makes everything cost less. So
sweet. Yeah, I've got for my Pauper deck, I want 4 copies of his Art for Duress signed. 4 Ichor Wellsprings. I got playset of the retro foils for both of those. That's like the dream right there. I want both of those signed. And then some stuff like, his classic Rampant Growth, where it looks like what's it called? The Great Wave. Micaeus. Yeah, he's got some classic ones too. Meadow Boon is another hilarious one from, I think this is Morning Tide. Beautiful, beautiful art. And I've got this in my Alharu, my one of only 2 deckless online deck.
I love
has
it.
Meadow Boon in it, and I've got a foil one. So
I bet he would love to sign that too.
Yeah, it's probably one he doesn't see too often.
Exactly, but the artwork is gorgeous. So
yeah, it's one of my favorite cards in that deck because it's very random, but very cool. I've also got Elena Danner. She is incredible, and she also actually, for my Mogwarts deck, I did all retrofoil mountains, all retrofoil swamps, in Japanese. Okay. So I want her to sign all of those. Would be awesome. So kind of really funny, cool. Go to an artist and have them sign basics, but her basics are I just love her art in general. I've got a couple copies of Otawara Soaring City that I want signed, and then a couple of the Commander lands. So Bountiful Promenade, Rejuvenating Springs, and a couple other things. So she's super cool, and we really like to meet her and have a full play set of my basics basically signed for my Goblin combo deck. That's
awesome.
And then last but not least, for me at least, is Doug Schuler for the good old Joven. Joven, my boy. My sweet boy.
I bet he would question you if you handed him a copy of Joven to sign.
Oh, I'm sure he signed so many copies of Joven in his
He's
time.
probably embarrassed he did that.
Why? Dude, look at Joven. He's so awesome.
I don't know if awesome is what I would use to describe Joven.
Well, we've got different tastes, Luke. That's okay. Because I think Joven's awesome.
Why is he sleeveless?
Chandler's awesome, too. Dude, why? Look at his guns, bro.
He looks like the IT guy at a Fortune 500 company.
Or a 4chan 500.
4chan.
Yeah. I think that's probably more his speed. Chandler also super cool. He's got a bunch of other crazy cards. Viashino Heretic. Yeah, this is like a new one from Commander Masters that he did. But I have to show you, there's one card in particular that I think you will love.
Okay.
It's a green card. Right up your alley.
I like what I'm hearing.
It's called Shelkin Brownie. Have you ever heard of Shelkin Brownie before?
I have not.
I you know what? I am not surprised because it is a pretty mid card. But it has.
Is it a 7?
Is it a power level 7?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Okay.
But it has the most suspect art I think I've ever seen. And we've seen a lot of suspect arts on cards, right?
Yeah.
Shelkin Brownie might. This is my fun fact for the week. Shelkin Brownie. It's not even a fact. It's just this is my weird thing of the week. Is Shelkin Brownie.
Okay.
Let's pull Shelkin Brownie up for you.
I love it.
Who is this guy?
I'm buying a copy
Who is
of
he?
this. I'm buying a copy of this. I'm sure this is in a bulk bin. I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna make him sign it.
You know what its ability is? So Shelkin Brownie, for 1 and a green, you get a 1/1 oof, and its ability is tap. Target creature loses all bands with other abilities until end of turn.
I don't even know what that means, but I love it.
And then the flavor text is leave a bowl of milk on your doorstep each night for the brownies, or they'll cause you no end of mischief. Look at them. Look at them. This is the most...
Dude,
and
I love this.
This is the most, and for lack of a better word, perverted brownie I've ever seen in my life.
I'm into this. I love this.
Yeah, I don't know. I
What's
don't know about
hat?
This guy. Also, yeah, his hat's going crazy over here. One of his eyes, I mean, he's leaning into that eye, but this eye is just, there's something up with this eye. And then his legs are spread. I don't know if you missed that detail. It looks
I thought that was a tree branch.
No, it's
that he's leaning on.
He's got some sort of curly elf boot, it looks like. His legs are incredibly short, but he's spreading his legs and he's leaning over something.
I didn't even
giving
pick
us
up
this
on that.
look with his triple chin.
You got to appreciate this era of artwork where it was close enough, you know? Like nowadays we've gotten so good with Photoshop that like, you know, you can make anything. And like this guy, he pulled out the watercolors and made some deviant stuff.
Yeah. Shout out Doug Schuler for Shelkin Brownie, because it's my new favorite card. It's my new favorite green card. That's for sure.
That hurts, but also I understand. I get it though.
All right, so now for the main topic of today's episode, which is Luke and I made decks for each other of commanders that we think the other person typically wouldn't go for. So, like, for example, Luke, as he described earlier in this episode, is what would you say, a monocolored Andy or something?
Yeah, you got it.
So, yeah, he plays his mono green decks. He plays mono blue. So I knew for sure going into this project, I'd pick at least a 2-color plus commander.
2-color plus.
Yeah. Well, it's a 2-color deck.
Okay.
It is a 2-color deck. I know you're like sweating.
I know, I'm like
you're immediately
panicking.
sweating. That would be so mean if I just picked like
A 5-color.
Yeah. Or like what is it, Brea, or so, just like a 4-color or just a Trax. I could have just picked a Trax and been like, all right, try to figure this out, Luke. But no, so like a 2-color deck that I think Luke would actually enjoy playing.
Okay.
Type thing. So, yeah, I made a deck for Luke. Luke made a deck for me. And, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Luke, do you want to... I think I led us last time with the least popular commander episode.
Okay.
So do you want to take the lead here?
So, yeah, basically from what you were saying before, we're making commander decks that we think the other person would like. And... that they wouldn't normally make. So obviously I made you a mono green deck because you would never, you hate green and you hate monocolored things. So I had to make you a mono green deck. But then I dug deep. I was like, what do you like? You know, what does Leland like? I'm like, well, you love black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You love graveyard shenanigans. You love like, oh, I do this trigger thing and then on the stack, all these things happen. And now I have like 1,000 +1/+1s and tokens. Like you love that kind of stuff. You love chores. And then also, most importantly, you love anthropomorphic animals. And so...
What? This is news to me.
So for you, I chose Ruxa Patient Professor, which is for 2 trees and 2 colorless. It says, when Ruxa Patient Professor enters the battlefield or attacks, return target creature with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. Mm-hmm. And it says creatures you control with no abilities get +1/+1. And then it says, now this is you love complicated cards. So like this is where it gets complicated.
Okay.
It goes, for each creature you control with no abilities, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. Let's get into the guts of this. Okay. So first things first, you love vanilla creatures. You already have a vanilla creature deck.
So my vanilla creature deck, which I actually have Ruxa in this deck.
Okay, there you go.
Is Jasmine Boreal of the 7. She's one of the uncommon legendary creatures from, was it the Dominaria United?
Yes.
So this is like the subset of the Dominaria United commander list, and they chose a lot of the OG commanders from the Legend set and like upgraded them. So like there is a Jasmine Boreal right here, the OG, and she's a vanilla. For 5 mana you get a 4/5 vanilla.
Okay.
So they thought like, okay, well this is kind of a funny, green white vanilla creature legend. So they made the updated Jasmine Boreal of the 7 all about vanilla creatures. So she's a 2/4 human druid. You can tap for Selesnya, and you can only spend that mana to cast creatures with no abilities. And then creatures I control with no abilities can't be blocked by creatures with abilities, which is almost every other creature in Commander. you know? With the exception of like tokens. So there is some like, it's not a busted card by any means. It's just an interesting thing to build around. So I totally love vanilla creatures. And actually, Ruxa's like the one other creature in this deck that isn't vanilla because she cares about vanilla creatures so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, yeah. So this deck is that's the focus is. So you'll have a whole deck full of vanilla creatures, and there's a lot of really fun ones in green, especially like Gigantosaurus is the big one. It's like the big bad green, mono, vanilla creature. And then also too all the bears. You got like, grizzly bears, which is famous. You got Moldovan bears. And then on top of that too, like, so yeah, filling your creatures with vanilla, your deck with vanilla creatures is one of the game plans. Another one that I thought too that would work with this deck is kind of like you talked about before is token generation. So, there are a lot of, like landfall stuff, and especially in green because there's so much ramp, landfall is pretty consistent. There's also like Garruk. You put Garruk in there, and then every turn create a beast, a 3/3 beast. And then also two things like Avenger of Zendikar is another famous mono green token generator that you could, throw in there. And then the last part of it too, you like complicated stuff. So that whole the whole text there about at the end where it was like creatures that have no, for each creature you control with no abilities, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't being blocked. According to the internet, this is not a keyword yet, but this paragraph exists on other cards, and this is like coined as super trample, which means that basically it's unblockable unless the thing blocking it can outright kill it. So, with that in mind, you basically have every creature in this deck has trample, has unblockable, and so you can do there are a lot of enchantments, especially in green, that will help you out in this way. So like Colossification is an enchantment that's very famous. It gives you 20 plus 20 plus 20. And even though it's 7-drop, you're in green, so you should have the mana for that. This shouldn't be a problem. Court of Garenbrig is another famous one where you just continually give your things +1/+1 every turn. That's also a mono green card. Oh, another one too is that it's called Muragenda Petroglyphs is another famous mono green, and it's actually a future sight card, which it gives all of your creatures with no ability +2/+2. And then just the last part of this too is that if you really want to like make the hurt happen, throw in a doubling season in there, throw in a parallel lives, just to double all of your token generation, all your +1 generation. And also it doubles your super trample, so you have extra super trample. So, I mean, it sounds like you kind of already knew a lot of this from your. I didn't realize that your other vanilla creature deck had green in it, so I'm sure you were aware of all this. But that's kind of what I thought for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely picked a deck I would like because I pretty much have I have the deck just with white. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with. I'm just looking through my list right now. I've got Gigantosaurus in here. I've got Garruk, Primal Hunter.
Okay, yes, you even have Garruk in there. Okay.
I've got the Muraganda Petroglyphs in here. So yeah, I've got a lot of the staple green cards that make a list that only has vanilla creatures kind of stand out.
Yeah. There are also some other... Sorry, I just looking at my list here. There are 2 artifacts I would recommend getting. One of them is called Hall of Triumph. I'm not sure if you have that in there, but it basically says that when it enters the battlefield, you choose a color. So in this deck, you choose green, and it says creatures with that chosen color get +1/+1. So just like there are other like mono-colored artifacts that you can go, or Staff of Titania is another one, which says that the equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of forests you have.
Okay, yeah, that would be in a mono green variant of my vanilla creatures deck. Oh. That would be big for sure.
And then another part of it too is that it says whenever the equipped creature attacks, you create a 1/1 green forest druid.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like extra tokens, extra +1 plus X plus X. So that's what I was thinking for you. This is my that was my my thoughts.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to take a look at your list to see what I might be able to add to my Jasmine of the Boreal of the 7 deck, and yeah, maybe I'll give Ruxa. Where's Ruxa in my list? Maybe I'll give Ruxa a go at being the lead in a mono green deck, because I don't have a mono green deck, so it might be kind of fun to rework the whole idea of having a vanilla creatures deck in mono green for sure.
Yeah. And oh yeah, and sorry, I should have brought this up before, but then there's also the graveyard shenanigans. So like, let's say that I somehow beef up a creature enough to be able to kill your Gigantosaurus. Well, next turn, you get it back, because every time he attacks, you can bring a card back from the graveyard. So, just like Star Wars, nothing's ever really dead in this deck. So,
I dig it, dude. Well, I'll have to look into it a little bit because I really love my Jasmine Borilla the 7 deck, and mono green variant might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, for the deck that I built for Luke, let's just take a quick trip down memory lane of Luke's decks, right?
Okay.
So he's the mono green guy, but more specifically, he's the Yorvo guy.
Yes.
So you love mono green and +1/+1 counters.
Yes.
So there we go. Green +1/+1 counters. But you've also got a mono blue deck that cares only about artifacts, or it's an artifact focused mono blue deck, right?
Yes.
So we got blue and artifacts, green and +1/+1 counters. Luke was telling us earlier that he's like starting to get into red a little bit. He's expressed to me before, and I think he might have even expressed on our intro episode, that white isn't your favorite. You don't like white.
No.
So I was like, let's color flip.
Wait, I'll say really quick. It's not that I dislike white. I just don't understand its purpose, because I feel like everything else does what white does. I wouldn't say, maybe not better. In some cases better, but it doesn't feel like it has a unique identity to me. But sorry, keep going. Yeah.
See, I've always liked white because to me it has a unique identity.
Okay.
It's and that's why. So before we get into why I like white and why you don't like white,
yeah.
Let me just reveal the commander, because I was like,
Yeah, let's hear it.
Luke is into mono colors, so I'm going to do a 2-color deck. But let's do 2 colors Luke doesn't use already. But let's pick a commander that cares about +1/+1 counters and artifacts. But we're going to do it in red and white.
Okay.
So I chose Zabaz the Glimmer Wasp.
Dude, that looks so
from
cool.
Modern Horizons 2. It is a legendary artifact creature insect. For 1 mana, it's a 0/0 with modular 1. So for those who aren't familiar with modular, the creature enters the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters, whatever the modular number is. So for Zabaz, it is modular 1, meaning he comes in with 1 +1/+1 counter, right? But when he dies, because it's modular, whatever counters were on that modular creature get put onto another creature you control. So that's what's really cool about modular in particular, is that when Zabaz dies, the rest of your creatures in this deck are going to be artifact creatures. And in fact, all the creatures in this deck are arc-bound creatures. Literally look at this. Your whole list is just all arc-bound, and they are all modular. So whenever any of your creatures die, they are 100% going to have +1/+1 counters on them, because that's how modular works. And whenever they die, you just move those counters to another creature. So Zabaz has, if a modular triggered ability would put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, that many +1 +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. Meaning, so Zabaz has modular 1. He still comes in, so his modular ability will trigger, and he'll actually come in with 2 +1/+1 counters. And then for 1 red, he has the activated ability, destroy target artifact you control. And for 1 white, Zabaz gains flying until end of turn. So this whole deck cares about what you like in +1/+1 counters and what you like in artifacts. And it combines them into a red-white deck, which are 2 colors that you typically don't play.
I'm ripping apart arcades tonight. I'm ripping apart Psy tonight and building this deck.
Isn't
this is the coolest I've ever heard.
Isn't this so cool? And it seemed so up your alley. Like I was thinking,
I'm building this tonight. Like this is 1,000% going in paper.
I was thinking really long and hard. I was like, okay, I need a 2-color deck for Luke, so he isn't on monocolor, and I need it to be 2 colors he doesn't already have. So it was either going to be white, red, or black. And I was like, okay, let's try red, white. And the second I saw Zabaz, I was like, this is a Luke deck. This is literally like Luke incarnate in a deck.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, just to put it out there, this is perfect.
So some of the cards that I'm gonna add to, or I added to this list for you, include all of the Arcbound creatures, and those are the only creatures in this deck. Meaning, every single creature in this deck has modular, which makes sense because Zabaz, that's his whole bit. You get an extra counter for all of your modular creatures. So he basically pumps up. As long as Zabaz is on board, he pumps all of your modular creatures. So, and the thing about Arcbound, Luke's showing me he's got a Moxfield list
deck's already started.
He's starting this deck
Right
mid
now.
podcast as we're talking about this. So yeah, it's 19. There are 19 other creatures in this deck, and you could, Luke might want to add more just for. There's a ton of other really synergistic +1/+1 counter artifact creatures that you could add too. I just thought it'd be really funny to point out all the modular creatures, and they're all called Arcbound. So this is the Zabaz Arcbound tribal deck essentially, and there's some pretty crazy ones. Like Arcbound Ravager can go off in this deck if you want to, if you can go wide with, I don't know, stuff like, not Thopter Foundry because that's blue, but like stuff that creates artifact creature tokens. You sack them all into Arcbound Ravager to continue to put +1/+1 counters on him, and so Arcbound Ravager will end up just being this huge monster super quickly. I just think it's a really, really fascinating card to begin with. So for 2 mana, you get a 0/0 with modular 1, and then it has the activated ability: sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Arcbound Ravager. So you could go, we're in red-white, so you could go Super Treasure, Focus, because those are artifacts, so you can sack all your treasures, put them all into Arcbound Ravager as +1/+1 counters. There's just a lot of different ways you could go with approaching this, because it's artifact heavy, it's sacrificing artifact heavy, and it's +1/+1 counter heavy. So some really interesting cards that I think would work. I try to pick like a couple of each type. Maybe I'll just pick one of each type. Oh, here's this card. I actually was going to put in my... this in my equipment and vehicles deck because it's red-white. And it's return all artifacts. So it's called Wake the Past. For 7 mana, you get to return all artifacts from your graveyard to the battlefield, and they gain haste until end of turn. So a fun combo with this is for Zabaz, because he's got for 1 red, destroy target artifact you control. And if they're modular, you can, for 1 red, basically target one of your Arcbound creatures, kill it, move all those +1 counters from that creature onto Zabaz for 1 red mana, pump Zabaz, basically sack your whole board, moving all of your +1/+1 counters onto Zabaz. And then you cast Wake the Past and return all of those creatures right back onto the battlefield, and all their modular abilities trigger again. So this is kind of a really cool, super late game. Obviously, it's pretty mana heavy at 7 mana, but you just pop off and basically win the game almost with Zabaz with this card. So kind of a fun one. Another one was, this is a classic white card, and this is this is my part of trying to convince you to like white.
Okay.
Is Unbreakable Formation. And this is a classic combat trick that also has the potential to just be kind of like a rally effect before going to combat. So for 2 and a white, it's an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. But also it has an addendum. So if you cast this spell during your main phase, so before combat, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. So this is it's almost like a modal card, right? Where you can swing out into an opponent and have them block a bunch of stuff, and then cast this to give everything indestructible to wipe their board. Or before you even go to war, you cast this at sorcery speed to put +1/+1 counters on everything, and then give them vigilance so they don't tap. So it's like you swing out big, pumping all your creatures, and also keeping everything up to block. Or you can use this in late game to kind of clear, if it's in Commander, if it's 1-on-1, you would cast this probably more so at instant speed to try to clear their board of creatures later in the game.
Cool.
Type thing. So super basic card, but I think it's a really it's a classic white spell in my mind, especially for Commander. I think this is a really strong card in this deck, especially with the +1/+1 counter synergy. And I've got a couple other kind of goofy artifacts. Energy Chamber is a classic. For 2 mana, at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact creature, or a charge counter on target non-creature artifact. So you might not be going into the charge counter thing, but for 2 mana, just being able to put a +1/+1 counter on Zabaz each turn is kind of fun. And then Sword of Hours, I think, is really fun. It's one of the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms cards, so it's a D&D card. So it's a 2 mana artifact equipment with equip 2, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage, you roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage dealt, or the result is 12, you double the amount of +1/+1 counters on that creature. So this just feels like a really cool equipment to put on Zabaz as you're trying to get in. Activating his flying ability, giving him flying, he'll swing out over the top, deal some damage, you roll the d12, and you double the counters on him. Seems kind of crazy. And then for enchantments, we'll do one enchantment, and then we'll call it a day on my my Zabaz. Okay, yeah, here's a good one, and this, I think, comes from the March of the Machine Commander decks. It's called Uncivil Unrest for 4 and a red. So non-token creatures you control have haste. So all of your Arcbound modular creatures hit the battlefield, they got haste. That alone is good. But it also has, if a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it would deal damage to a permanent or a player, it deals double that damage instead.
That's nuts.
So this just doubles the power of all of your creatures in this deck. Because, every creature is going to enter with a +1/+1 counter as they're all modular. And it's damage to permanent or a player, which I think that's the key thing or it's a permanent as well. So that's dealing damage to creatures too. So it's basically doubling the damage of all of your modular creatures in this deck. This card seems extremely, extremely strong in Zabaz. So yeah, what are your thoughts here, man?
Sorry, I'm speechless right now because I just found my next big deck, and when I say I mean you found my next big deck for me. This is everything I look for in a commander. Okay, it's got, what do I love? I love +1/+1 counters. I love just creature combat more than spell slinging. And then also too, I love commanders with some Riz. One of my favorite things about Yorvo is that I think he looks awesome. I think he looks super cool. Mm-hmm. And in the same way, I love the way that this commander looks. I love how it's a big, metallic bee.
Right.
I'm so in, and I'm making this order tonight on TCG Player.
That's awesome.
Also, what's creepy about this is funny how this has happened. I cracked a Sacred Foundry. And I texted it to you, and I was like, well, that's useless. I'm never going to use that. But now I can use it in this deck.
Hey, there we go.
It's creepy how
right?
what is it? The universe heals itself, It all comes together.
That's awesome. And I of course, I didn't mention Cather's Crusade, which is the classic, going back to our, conversation earlier about why I think white has a strong identity, or I don't know, +1/+1 counters. Yeah, you might think green more so. But white, honestly, I think is kind of right up there. White, green, +1/+1 counters is an archetype. But Cather's Crusade, for 3 white, you get an enchantment that has, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Okay. So this just pumps up all your modular stuff. You're going to probably run a couple proliferate cards in here too. Yeah, there's just so much you can do with Zabaz, and I really wanted to find a 2-color deck that is 2 colors you don't typically go for, and I'm so happy that you're actually interested.
Yeah, you absolutely
in the good old
nailed
Zabaz.
Absolutely nailed it. I'm making this order tonight. This is everything I look for in a commander. So thank you for showing this to me.
Yeah, and thank you for showing me Ruxa in a new light.
Yeah, I'm sorry you already knew that. I didn't know that. Well, I didn't realize Ruxa was in a deck you currently have.
Yeah, well, like you were saying, you didn't know that there was green in my vanilla creatures deck, and I've only played it against you, a couple times.
White and blue. So. I thought it was white and blue, so I kind of dropped the ball on that.
Well, it was interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on a vanilla creatures deck, and also learn of a couple cards that I hadn't really considered before, like the one that was the artifact that had you get an XX for the number of forests you have.
Oh yeah, Staff of Titania.
Staff of Titania.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that because honestly, with like the amount of dual lands I'm running, my forest count is going to be pretty high. I think it's a pretty green heavy deck anyways, just with the creature split. So
also something too about this deck specifically is that I just from like gut checking and looking at cards, you could do this very budget friendly. Like that Staff of Titania, you're like, man, that sounds broken. That's like a 70-cent card. Like it's not very, like it's, because it's a mono colored, it's like 70 cents, like according to my notes here. So I maybe by the time this goes out, it'll be more expensive, but it you can do this very budget. You could do this probably under $50. You could make a good Ruxa deck.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like Staff of Titania came out in the Brothers War Commander deck. So that's why, I'd never heard of it before. But, I mean, the fact that, it pumps whichever creature by the number of forests I control, and I just checked the percentages. This deck is like 75% green, so I'm definitely hitting a lot of forest drops. I think I added the new Surveil dual land. I've got proxies of like Savannah and Temple Garden. So I've got like a high amount of forests in this deck anyways. I think I might as well just run this card.
Yeah.
It's only $1, and every time that creature attacks, I get another vanilla creature for free basically. And it's a forest dryad land token. So you're ramping and you get an extra vanilla creature, which is just so good. So definitely going to have to add this to my list. And also,
it looks like it's $1, so it's pretty cheap too.
$1.
Won't break the bank.
Exactly. So yeah, I think this was a success overall. We both found two commanders that neither of us had really considered before, and I'm glad you're already building Zabaz as we speak.
As we speak, I'm making this deck. Yeah, this is so yeah, thank you for this recommendation. This is definitely going to be made in paper.
Heck yeah. All right, well, I think before we wrap it up, should we do our Scryfall random spirit creature of the week?
Let's do it.
All right, let's pull up the old Scryfall. I'll let you let her rip, Luke. Let's see what you get.
So I got one, and I'm not even gonna use my free mully. This was my my random. I didn't even have to press the button multiple times to get a creature. So I got Godo Bandit Warlord.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, you know what's up.
The guy himself.
The boy himself, which reads, when Godo Bandit Warlord enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And it says, when Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase.
So there's a classic combo with Godo. It's Godo and Helm of the Host. So basically, So Helm of the Host, you equip it to Godo. You swing out with Godo, creates a copy of him.
Yeah.
Untap, they attack. You get another. You do it again, and you get infinite combat steps with Godo and Helm of the Host.
Yeah. Okay.
And you basically infinite combat steps, infinite Godos. So you'll eventually hit a point where it's like, yeah, I've got like 73 Godos on board. I'm just gonna keep swinging at you like it's game over.
Wow.
So if you have a free attack with Godo and Helm of the Host, you win the game basically.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that works. Okay.
So that's a great spirit creature of the week.
I'd say so.
Yeah. I also landed on the first random I clicked. I hit a creature that I actually absolutely love. So we're gonna stick to it. It's Messenger Jays from Conspiracy Take the Crown. So this is this second Conspiracy set. For 4 and a blue, you get a 2/1 flying bird that also has the Council's Dilemma. And I love these kind of multiplayer specific effects. And I was actually building. This was a while ago. It's on the back burner. I think I might come back to it eventually. But I was building a bird tribal PDH deck. I forget the commander I had at the helm, but this was in the list, and this was like I'm never going to cut this card type thing in that list because
very wholesome.
The Council's Dilemma for Messenger Jays is when it enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for feather or quill. Put a +1/+1 counter on Messenger Jays for each feather vote, and draw a card for each quill vote. For each card drawn this way, discard a card. So it's a really cool like ETB effect. Obviously, a 2/1 flyer for 5, it's a common. Like it's not a good rate, but you get the little bonus of some potential looting effects like drawing into cards, discarding cards, or pumping up the Messenger Jays as it enters the battlefield. So I don't know, just a really fun card, and I mean, definitely a spirit animal. So it's just a bunch of blue jays. So
Oh yeah.
I'll take it.
Also, it might be expensive, but you're paying for the fun factor.
Exactly. Anytime I see a Council's Dilemma effect, it's going in the deck. It doesn't even matter what it does.
Oh yeah.
I just love the voting within Commander. It just adds to the kind of social experience of a Commander game.
No, me too. I love that.
Cool. So we got Messenger Jays and Godo. It's quite the pairing for our spirit creatures.
Yeah, two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Infinite combat combo with Godo and a 2/1 bird. So all right. Well, be sure to answer this week's community question in the episode description, which is, which color combo do you typically not play? As we found out today, I highly recommend you go, test your own limits, find something that you don't think you might like otherwise. We've got Luke set up. He's already working on Zabaz, a commander he probably wouldn't have even looked at before. So yeah, give it a shot, and let us know which color combo you typically don't play and might be trying out now. Thanks to our sponsors. We currently have none. If you'd like to sponsor the show, please reach out to us via email at wilddogspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the show. Please connect with us via Twitter or Instagram at wilddogspod, and over on Discord, which you're also invited to in the episode description. Finally, thanks to Johnny Bartlett for creating the intro and outro music. Please check out the link to his SoundCloud in the episode description below as well. Until next time, Wild Dogs out.
Thanks, everybody.
Magic, magic, I'm so magic.
Gathering magic,
Spend a lot of money on cards.
playing cool cards with my friends.